Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our plenary. Thank you very much. Before we start our talks, if everyone would like to contribute to our Mentimeter poll, please, there's a QR code at the bottom, or if you go to menti.com and there's a code number at the top, and we'd like you to answer the question what the first word is that comes to mind when you think of animal emotions. That would be great. Thank you, and I'll give you a couple of minutes. If you're having a problem with the QR code, we suggest you just go straight to menti.com. And if you're watching us live on Facebook, you can also add in your words as well. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for your responses. You're welcome to continue adding in your information there. And please, can you keep this menti.com browser open on your phones or your laptops, because we'll be using it a little bit later on in the session as well. So thank you very much. And it's great to see there's some really prominent words that you guys have been highlighting. Misunderstood, empathy, feelings. And hopefully misunderstood is not something you'll be feeling later on, because obviously the plenary is about animal emotions, so hopefully we're going to really help you on that side of things. So thank you. Okay, so my name is 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗲𝗲. I work for the Wild Planet Trust, and I'm really happy to invite you all to see so many of you at our plenary about how to understand, measure, and transform the emotional welfare of animals through behaviour. And this is a joint plenary through the EAZA Animal Welfare Working Group and also the EAZA Animal Training Working Group, and it's been really great for us both to work together. So just a quick overview of the session. We have 3 main keynotes and then some really fun and funny activities later on that you'll hopefully enjoy. So we first of all have a great talk about animal emotions, and then we'll be talking about training interventions, and then finally about ethical and optimal training to give you a really holistic level of information about this topic. And the first thing I'd just like to cover, just so that everyone's on the same page about what we mean by animal welfare. So there's many, many definitions of animal welfare, but the main ones consider the same kind of themes. So how an individual animal is coping with its environment and what it's having to do to cope, and whether it's successfully or failing to cope with how it's experiencing the world. It's the physical and psychological well-being of non-human animals. And we can think about it as welfare being what animals feel. And it's really important that we focus all of this using the 5 domains model of animal welfare by 𝗕𝗿𝗻𝗔 and his colleagues. And the 5 domains of animal welfare cover the first 4 physical or functional domains. These are nutrition, the environment, physical health, and behavior. And these all feed into the 5th domain, which is the mental domain. And so the 5 domains model of animal welfare acknowledges that for every physical aspect that's affected, there might be an accompanying emotion or a subjective experience that the animal might be experiencing that will affect potentially its welfare. And when we historically measure welfare, whether that's looking at their general behavior or doing a welfare assessment, we historically focus on the input measures. These are what we provide our animals. So we think we give it a good environment, we give it good care, so ultimately it must have good welfare. But if we think about it in the 5 domains model, we can think about the 4 functional domains. So you can give it a good diet, you can tick a box to say its environment is adequate, you can have vets on site, and you might do a behavior study to think actually its activity budget looks really healthy. But what we should really be thinking about is output measures. These are how the animal is actually responding in how you provide their environment. So in terms of nutrition, are they eating the diet that you're providing? Are they exploring and using all of their environment? And is their behavior natural and of a good level of repertoire? However, this becomes a bit tricky when we think about the 5th domain of animal welfare, mental state, because this can be something that's quite difficult to determine. So what is the aim of this plenary? Well, it's to introduce all of you to methods in monitoring and considering animal emotions in the daily care of our animals. And we know that modern and the majority of welfare assessments that we use or provide or are published really focus on the 4 domains of animal welfare. And that's a great start. And if everyone's doing that, hopefully that's a really great way of starting to look at the welfare of the animals in your care. So the idea of this plenary is to really introduce the concept of animal emotions and give you some idea about how we can measure it. There's no real expectation on you all going home, hopefully you will, and start measuring animal emotions, but we want to provide you with a really good overview and a synopsis of what can be done and encourage you to start thinking and understanding about this 5th domain of animal welfare and animals' mental state. So that's my introduction, and I'm very happy to introduce the first keynote of our plenary. So this is 𝗕𝗿𝗻𝗔, hope I said that correctly. Thank you very much. So she is the CEO and founder of Arador Innovations Limited, who is a science communication and research company. And she's been working historically on behaviour and cognition of animals, both at the University of Helsinki and also Bristol University in the UK. And her new sort of area of research is looking at thermal imaging in a way of measuring emotion in animals. So I'm really happy to invite Helena up on stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly, and good morning, everyone. And it's great to be here together with all of you. I hope you are enjoying the conference, and thanks to the organizers for inviting me here. And what we are going to do next is that I'm going to give you a super condensed version of a talk that I normally do as an at least 2-hour version. I quite frequently, or at least sometimes, give full-day versions that various organizations are asking. But now we are looking at some very key topics on what is animal emotions and how are they constructed in the brain. The study of animal emotions has been one systematic field of research for about 30 years now already. So if somebody tries to tell you that animals don't have emotions and it's just an anthropomorphism and people are just projecting their emotions to animals, you can tell them that it really has been a field of science for 30 years, and a lot has been found out during that time. Also something that has overturned some old misconceptions. Like any field of research, advance comes from many things. One of them is the development of new measuring methods. Many of you are very familiar with assessing animal emotions in practical life, for example, from their behaviors. Like the yawning tiger here, yawning is not only after waking up. Many species yawn also when they are feeling a bit insecure or unsure about what the situation is about. Many of you are familiar with looking at facial expressions, like, for example, the whisker positions. Here you can see in this tiger this forward-pointing whiskers, which you can also see when a tiger is attacking a carcass. And then in research, all of this repertoire of behavior and emotional expressions are also used in a very systematic, quantified manner, often in connection with behavioral measures, such as heart rate monitoring and others, including thermal imaging, of which we will be talking at the end of this talk. The emotions in animals are evolutionary, a very old thing. The little thingy here in below, that's one of the very early ancestors of all of us vertebrates, and it's assumed that already that thing that was swimming in the Cambrian seas more than 500 million years ago, before life had crawled from sea to land, already that thing was capable of at least feeling pleasure and feeling fear. And the reason why that is assumed is because all of its descendants, all of us who descend from these little creatures, have very similar processes and very similar structures in our brains, producing these basic emotions such as fear and pleasure. And here you can also see the kind of the modern thinking about the evolutionary tree. There are no lower and higher vertebrates. We all have had the same more than 500 million years to evolve from this common ancestor. And from this evolutionary background comes a few facts, for example, that the basic emotions, the ability to feel fear, the ability to feel pleasure, and the intensity of those feelings does not depend on which vertebrate you are, whether you are a fish or a reptile or a mammal. It does not depend on whether you are big or small. The emotions of a mouse are as big as the emotions of the elephant for the animal themselves. And also basic emotions such as fear, pleasure, social bonding, aggression, and things like that also do not depend on intelligence. There are some emotions that do depend on your level of intelligence. For example, empathy and this emotional perspective taking, the ability to understand that somebody else is in trouble even if you yourself are fine, the ability to want to help the other animal and to work out creative ways of helping the other animal, those require intelligence. And Holly was also already talking to you about the 5 domains model in the science of animal emotions. This is nowadays one of the most, and the science of animal welfare, this is usually one of the most frequently applied structure of thinking, where, as Holly already mentioned to you, that these 5 domains are not equal to each other, they are not all parallel, but the 5th, the mental or affective state, is the one to which all of these other domains are feeding into. That is kind of the determinant of welfare. In short, welfare is how you feel. And welfare is not only how you feel at one moment or another moment. Welfare, by definition, is a long-term state. The level of welfare, whether it is good or bad or intermediate, refers to what is kind of your baseline feeling over which everything that happens is being interpreted and experienced. So welfare and other long-term states are the products of cumulative events over time. So if you are mostly having pleasant experiences, such as living in an environment that is adequate for your species, that gives an outlet for the behavioral priorities, the behavioral needs. For example, if you are a species that needs a lot of space to roam around, there is that. If you are a species that wants to dig in the ground, there is that. And if you are living in an adequate social group, And if you are having plenty of opportunities for active, rewarding experiences. This is one of the things that is in science, in the science of animal emotions and welfare. It's an increasingly studied topic, this importance of the active agency of an animal. That animal is not just passively somewhere and receiving the input from the environment, but if the animal has opportunities to actively do something that produces good outcomes, for example, do species-typical foraging behaviors, and then as a result to get pieces of food by a result of the animal's own work. That kind of things are not only behavioral needs as such, but they also provide the possibility for agency to being the active subject of your life, which is one of the things that accumulates these good experiences. And even if something bad happens every once in a while, which is bound to happen in life, then you are still able to come back to a good level of baseline mood for two reasons. Firstly, because if most of your experiences are positive, then you are already quite high up on this curve that is kind of symbolizing how good your mood or baseline welfare is. So when you're already high up, then if you experience a little dip, then you don't fall very, very low, then you can again require. But another reason why good welfare helps you to cope with adverse events as well is that it builds up resilience, which is another area that is quite a hot topic in the research of animal welfare nowadays. Resilience meaning the ability to recover from unpleasant situations. It has to do with how well your autonomous nervous system works and other fundamentally physiological things, as do all of the other aspects here. That is one of the reasons why wild animals are often so resilient, because they are living in an environment where there is plenty of opportunities for species-typical behaviors, species-typical foraging and so on. And then similarly, if you're looking at the lower curve here, if your life mostly consists of negative experiences, which might be painful experiences, for example, if you have untreated painful problems in your body, injuries or others, or if something fearful frequently happens, for example, if your enclosure is situated, if you are a hooved mammal, for example, and your enclosure is situated next to some great predator like a great cat, even though your behavior might not look very dramatic, having these frequent experiences of having a great cat staring at you is one example of this kind of recurring negative experience, and also the lack of being able to fulfill your behavioral needs, your species-typical positively rewarding behaviors. All of these contribute to these negative emotions and building up this lower state of welfare. And even if something nice happens every once in a while, such as you get food or something, if your overall emotional experiences are negative or lack of important, necessary positive, then that is what creates poor welfare and other such as chronic stress, which has, in some species, it also has implications for reproduction. Some species are quite sensitive to chronic stress, which reduces their reproductive success, as you probably all very well know. And then if we take a bit closer look at these emotions that are these from one moment to next moment changing, this is kind of the core building blocks of welfare. If we think about emotions at any moment, this is a very typical graph that scientists are using when conceptualizing the emotions. The emotional state at any given moment is a spot somewhere in this field. And the better you are feeling, the more right in this field it is, and the worse you are feeling, the more left you are. And then the vertical axis, it is not intensity. It is sometimes misunderstood as intensity, but what is meant by arousal is the level of your functioning of your sympathetic nervous system, which is the part of your autonomic nervous system that increases your heart rate, increases your breathing rate, releases adrenaline in your bloodstream. It prepares your body for action, whether it is in a positive setting such as that you are eagerly finding food or finding a high-value food item, or in a negative, such as aggression or fear. And then there are some low arousal emotions that can be very intense. So in this graph, kind of the neutral intensity is somewhere in the middle, and then the further you get from the middle, the more intense your emotions are. And as you can see, one of the worst things that animals can experience is recurring fear. Fear is an even more negative emotion than aggression, because in an aggressive situation, the animal at least has something to do. Animal has some potential for finding a solution for the situation, but also aggression is a negative emotion. So everything that is on the left side of the vertical line is something that contributes to chronic stress and negative welfare if it is experienced frequently. And similarly, what we have here on the right is something to promote in our animals. Some of them are species or group of species specific or age specific, such as play behavior in most species is most prominent in young animals. And this care, like social bonding, is mostly there in social species, and then in any species that has maternal or paternal care, it's there while the offspring are young. But so basically this, even though it's just a two-dimensional surface with some lines and words over there, provides some very, very useful structure for thinking about emotions. And then I was asked to give you a few insights of this developing new one of the techniques for which there are quite great expectations for future development for new ways to measure emotions is infrared thermography, also called thermal imaging, which means the use of a thermal camera to measure the temperature radiation that is come from any surface, such as an animal's head. And thermal cameras nowadays have such a good resolution that you can see quite a lot of detail in the head of any animal. And even though if you touch your own face, it might feel uniform in temperature, actually there are temperature differences across the face in all of us terrestrial animals at least. And those differences that in the temperature variation tell a lot about brain functioning that is going on behind and causing the interplay of those. Thermal imaging itself, a thermal camera is just a tool. It is just an expensive thermometer. So the thermal camera itself doesn't know anything about how your animal is feeling. But if you have skill in understanding what the changes in temperature distributions mean, what kind of biological information they reveal, they can be used in many situations. Research methods are being developed to measure animal emotions, and already now they can be used for veterinary inspection. For example, if there's an inflammation in a joint, or how well a wound is healing, if the wound is having inflammation, or if there is nerve damage, those kind of physical abnormalities near the surface of the animal can already be seen with a thermal camera. But then the methods to measure what is going on in the brain on the basis of the interplay of the temperature differences across the face, they are still being developed. So here we are talking about future in research, future in monitoring and inspection of animal welfare in zoos. So it is very likely that most of you in your professional lifetime will see the time when zoos have available methods and software for thermal cameras to monitor the welfare, the emotional states of the animals. And also they are a powerful communication tool for the public as well, because they can show various things in a visual form. So as I was mentioning, the thermal camera, here is one example of a type of thermal camera that is quite commonly used also in zoos and veterinary settings. And what it does, it's measuring the temperature radiation from the surface of the animal, and it is an array of tens of thousands of little thermometers, each of which is constituting 1 pixel here in the resulting thermal image. And how are we measuring then emotions? or how are we developing the methods to measure emotions. One of the approaches the approach that has been most studied so far, and for which the methods will first become available, is based on how our autonomic nervous system works. As I mentioned, when we become aroused, either excited or aggressive or afraid, then our heart starts beating, adrenaline is released from adrenaline glands to our bloodstream. One of the results of an adrenaline consequences is that it narrows the little blood vessels on our surface, such as on our noses or ears, tip over the tail if we happen to have a tail. And so this temperature, this change in blood flow is big enough that it shows in a visible, to a thermal camera, visible reduction in temperature. And there is this kind of dynamic that if you get aroused, then first you have this drop in your peripheral temperature, such as your nose and ears and also eyes, and then you have this gradual increase. And similar dynamics are caused by exercise. So if you start running, you get this same drop and increase. And also if you are in a cold environment, then you also your extremities are getting colder. If you are in an environment that is too warm, then your extremities are getting warmer. So all of these you have to be able to differentiate between these to be able to measure emotions or develop software for that. But as I mentioned already, there are ways that zoos can use thermal cameras. Thermal comfort, by definition, is the situation where the animal does not need to conserve heat in its body and does not need to dissipate heat if it's too hot. And so the so-called thermoneutral zone is the range of temperatures, ambient temperatures, where the animal is feeling comfortable, not too hot, radiating temperature, not too cold, condensing temperature. And that is something that can already be easily measured with a thermal camera, as well as the environment. So if you don't want to go and disturb the animal and putting a thermometer in the resting surface, you can measure it with a thermal camera. Body temperature, some zoos are using thermal cameras to measure whether an animal has fever. The surface is very unpractical place for that because surface temperature mainly reflects air temperature, but feces temperature, freshly dropped feces right after defecating, there you get a very nice measure of the body temperature if you point at that very fresh feces with a thermal camera. And then some types of inflammation like this mara here is from Helsinki Zoo. The vet asked me to help identify why it is lame. The main problem is here, turned out to be here on the right shoulder, but also here you can see inflammation when it has been putting too much weight on this leg, when it has been protecting this leg. So various veterinary uses are already there to help determine where exactly the problem is. And for those of you who are interested in learning more of thermography and how to use it in your own work, I'll be quick. We are organizing courses next year in Helsinki, probably in May or June. We are just at the planning stage, but we will have some very top speakers and very relevant content for both zookeepers and veterinarians. So if you are interested in more information on these courses when it becomes available, here you have my email address. You can email. And now I promised to give a quick demonstration. It will be quite quick, but to show you what a thermal camera actually is and what it can do. So here is the type of thermal camera that I was showing you in the PowerPoint. One example. This is one quite widely used model. And I would like to ask one volunteer to come up here to represent a species of mammal. What I'm going to do. Sorry. No. Yeah. Just to give you an idea what. Yeah. Here we have a volunteer. Thank you. Thank you. And so, yeah. Hi. What's your name? Okay, yeah, hi, I'm Helena. And so can you just please stand there? And what we are going to, facing me, please, yeah. So what we are going to see is that I'm going to show you there on the screen what a face of one species of mammal looks like. So here you can see that even though faces may feel uniform in temperature, there are differences. The tip of our nose, we are quite typical mammals, so that our tip of our nose is usually the coldest place in our face. And if we are feeling excited or aroused or a bit nervous or a bit excited happily, in all of those situations our tip of the nose gets colder. And you can also see that the eyes are the warmest part, and especially the inner corner of the eye is the warmest part of all, so that is a good place for many temperature measurements as well. It also reflects the functioning of the autonomic nervous system. And you have probably seen thermal images in beautiful colors. The colors are just products of a software, so we can just, this is still the same thermal image, it is just setting up some colors. And then one of the reasons why it is important if you are doing this professionally at your zoo, there are plenty of things that can affect the temperature ranges that you can see there. And one of the many is that if there is some moisture in the environment, so if the animal has been playing in the drinking water or it has been raining, so can I please ask you to dip your finger here so that we will first show you how your finger looks. Normally, can you please just raise your hand? So here we can see a perfectly ordinary hand. You can see that all the fingers look similar in temperature. Thank you. And then can you please dip one of your fingers? This is a glass of water that you can, I'll just show the water first, that you can see that it is a bit cool, but it is nearly room temperature, so it is not any ice cold water. Yes, thank you. And now you can take it up. And now, as you can see, now the finger just being briefly dripped in the water. So the finger itself is still at the same temperature. There's just this layer of water, about room temperature water on the surface, and it has that big an effect on the temperature. And you can lower your hand. So those were just some of the examples of. Thank you very much. So those were just some of the examples. They are literally dozens of things, both external and internal in the environment and the animal, that affect the surface temperature distribution, similarly to having the evaporatory cooling, the effect of which you just saw on her finger. So that is one of the reasons why it is important to have professional skill when you are using thermography. But when you do have professional skill, it's really a powerful tool for finding out a lot of relevant information of your animals. But it's time to let the next speaker to come on the floor. So thank you everyone for your attention.
It's me. He'll turn it on. Look at you.
It's working? Oh, it's working. Hello. Thank you so much, Helena. That was amazing. Very interesting talk. I'm here. My name is Annette Petersen. I chair the Animal Training Working Group, and I have the pleasure of introducing to you 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗲 Heidenreich, who is an animal training consultant who specializes in merging behavior science and practical application to improve animal welfare. She is passionate about facilitating the progression in our field of sharing emergent information. And I'm also proud to say that she is therefore also an advisor for the Animal Training Working Group. Welcome, 𝗕𝗶𝗲.
Thank you. Clicker? Where'd the clicker go? There we go. All right. So, obviously, there we go. We're going to talk about animal training interventions and how we transform emotional behavior and also hopefully measure it a little bit here. So first, I need to give credit to the people who have taught me the information that I'm going to share with you today. Israel Gold Diamond is actually the originator of the information I'm sharing today. Joe Lang was one of his students who is helping to carry on his information, and 𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗄 is also somebody that is an important contributor to the information I'm sharing today. If you want to learn more, please scan that QR code. It has additional resources and information. Some of it's really accessible, a podcast you can listen to, so you're not, going, oh my gosh, I have to read heavy articles. I'll also show it at the end if you miss the QR code now. And I'm just sharing how to apply what I learned from these scientists in our community, so hopefully you will enjoy this. Okay, so we're going to start with a video here. This is just an example of some before and after of how some interventions that I've done with clients that I work with, that we can transform emotions, so to speak, in one training session. So let's watch this. We might turn the... Uh-oh, we lost our guy. I'm going to say the audio is a little loud. But hopefully you can see that ostrich went from defending his territory to, oh, you mean I can just walk away when you approach the gate? And we did that in one training session. And then those of you that attended our workshop, we've got some macaws here that are also showing some aggressive behavior around territory. And again, in one training session, showing much more what we might describe as calm and relaxed behavior. There's lots of different words that you all may be having in your head that describe what you're observing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that throughout this presentation. And here we have two pelicans, one showing aggressive behavior and one's showing what we might describe as a fear response. And by the end of 20 minutes, they're sitting next to each other, looking maybe relaxed, might be a word you might use. And look at this donkey around this scale. He's getting carrots, but I don't know, how might you describe what you see there? I have fear response on the text. And then 20 minutes later, that body language looks a lot different. And here, if you again participated in the workshop, you saw this video where we see a giraffe that seems to look kind of hesitant to enter the chute. And then by the end of 20 minutes, instead of backing out of the chute like this, we see a giraffe that looks pretty confident walking into the chute. So I hope by the end of this lecture, or talk, I hope it's not a lecture, or sounds pretty heavy, you'll get a little taste of how do we get there. How do we transform these emotions or emotional behavior? But first we're going to start with a video that I want you to just think about whatever words come to mind as you watch these Saki monkeys interacting with this keeper. And you can just think of them in your head. If you want to write them down in notes in your phone, you can. It's going to change throughout the video. So I'm just going to go ahead and start playing it. And you can think of, what does that look like to you? How would you describe that if you were doing a word cloud? What does that look like? Okay. Looks a little different now. Oh, but I'm not sure.
You like medicine, but not the grape juice?
Okay. Now here it comes again. Well, ooh, I don't know. I don't know. You just can feel yourself in that little Saki monkey's brain, right? Having some thoughts about these things. And that's a syringe full of grape juice, just so you know. Okay, oh, they're a little lick. Okay, some more thoughts going on there. And the male's like, nope. Oh, maybe. Okay, a few more licks. So you all may have some words that are coming to your mind as you're watching this that you may be thinking. Oh, it's changing again now, isn't it? Changing some more. Looking very different from where we started. And now our boy is gaining perhaps some confidence. And our girl is looking much, yeah? Or somebody has a word they want to? All right. So maybe you all had some words like scared at first, or timid, or reactive, and then maybe it changed to a little bit more like hesitant or conflicted, and then maybe by the end you're like, maybe he's a little confident or interactive or interested. But how did you get there? Let's look again at this video. So the first thing I see is, that one said, give me some distance from that syringe. And then he got a mealworm. And then it was, I need distance again. Right? And then she said, I want your mealworm. So now we've got 3 licks on the syringe. And then, I still need some distance, though. I'm not so sure I want to be so close to that.
You like medicine, but not the grape juice?
All right. And 1 lick of the syringe, but I still need some distance, right? And what else do we have here that we observed that gave us some information? She wants his mealworm. And 1 lick, but less distance needed this time from the syringe. 1 lick and less distance needed from the syringe. And some more licks going on here. Licks that we can actually count, right? And the male took 1 lick and less distance needed from the syringe. And now we're seeing lots of measurable changes in behavior, right? So one of the things we talked about at the top of this plenary was that we were talking about how can we measure emotions. So 22 licks in 40 seconds for the female and 15 licks of the syringe in 40 seconds from the male. So we actually had observable, measurable behavior that you guys were all looking at that actually helped you come up with those words that you had in your head that you were using to label the emotions that you were describing there, that you were calling maybe fear or conflicted or hesitant or, it looks relaxed now. So that's what we do. We observe and we measure behavior. So what could we measure there? Maybe the distance that the animal moved away from the syringe, we saw it decreased over time. Maybe the frequency the animal moved away from the syringe, it decreased over time. And maybe the frequency of licks of juice over time, they increase over time. So there's actually observable, measurable stuff there that gave us information about the behavior. And in fact, we call that emotional behavior. So what contingencies changed, and we're going to talk about what a contingency is here in just a minute. The animal goes from a distancing contingency, trying to get away from the syringe, to a nearing contingency. It starts getting closer to the syringe. So we're actually going from negative reinforcement. The animal wants to increase its distance from an aversive stimulus, to competing contingencies, basically negative reinforcement, competing with positive reinforcement, to positive reinforcement. So we have a whole movement of contingencies there. And what covert, that means hidden, emotions might we say are associated? We might describe those, the labels, these are the words that we use to describe those emotions. We might call that fearful to conflicted to interested. Now, the reason I say labels is because everybody here might have a different word that they use. I like the word fearful, conflicted to interested, but other people might have said timid to hesitant to affiliative. We all have different words to describe what we observe there. These are just labels. And the only reason we get to do this is because we are humans with verbal behavior. Animals don't have language in the same way that we do. They have their own, communications. But it's because we're verbal that we get to say fearful, conflicted, and then whatever. So that's why we have these issues with how do we communicate about this stuff. So what's a contingency? A contingency is the conditions under which behaviors occur and the outcomes they produce. So under these conditions, if the animal does this behavior, it gets this outcome, okay? And you can take a picture of that. I know a contingency is a tough word. We have a hard time wrapping our brain around it. So in our example here, when the syringe is presented, if the monkey backs away, we see this emotional behavior, that backing away, that we might label as fear. And it gets distance from this aversive stimulus, the syringe. So that's the outcome of doing that behavior. So let's look a little bit more at some labels and some contingencies and these, how we describe them as emotions. So these are 6 common emotions and their contingencies. If you came to our workshop, you saw this slide already. So here are some distancing contingencies. And again, you may have different words that you use as labels, but fear is moving away from an aversive stimulus, and that is a negative reinforcement contingency. Anger or aggression is also a distancing contingency, but usually the animal's trying to drive an aversive stimulus away. Panic, non-specific distancing. The animal just doesn't know where to go, but it's trying to get it away from an aversive stimulus. A nearing contingency is positive reinforcement. The animal's trying to get closer to something that is appetitive, and that's positive reinforcement. We might call that anticipation or eager or affiliative. People have different words to describe that emotion that they consider associated with that. Now, here's an interesting one. Competing contingencies. We saw that with the Saki monkeys when they were like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to interact with that syringe yet. So that's when we have negative and positive reinforcement competing. So that's when that access to the appetitive is competing with the aversive stimulus. But anxiety or stress might be a label that you use for when the learner doesn't have the skills yet to access the appetitive, right? They're not prepared yet. I don't know how to cope with this environment. I don't have the skills yet. Or maybe the teacher hasn't given the animal the skills yet, right? Like if I didn't practice enough for this presentation and I'm like freaking out that I'm up here on stage in front of you all, I would be having some anxiety right now, but hopefully I'm doing okay. So let's look at an example to help us understand this a little bit more. And this is where it really maps onto the 5 domains model, okay? This is where I hope that this idea that emotions describe contingencies can really help us connect that 5th domain to the 4. So environmental conditions, right? The who, the what, and the where evoke behavioral responses. So let's say we have some sort of hoof stock that doesn't have some great hooves going on right now. They need hoof care. And if you want to relate to you as a human, maybe these were my shoes. They were wearing down, and so I was walking on bad shoes, and I was starting to get inflammation in my knee, and I could feel it, right? So if we've got some hoof stock that are starting to get some inflammation, what happens? We get behavioral responses that are observable and measurable. We might get some limping that we can measure. How frequently is this animal limping? We might see them walking less. We might see them sitting more. We might see them laying down more. Those are observable, measurable behaviors. And these are related to contingencies, right? So if they're laying down more to escape an aversive condition, the inflammation, and it's increased, that is negative reinforcement. That behavior is increased. They're avoiding that aversive condition. We can think of the addition of the inflammation is decreasing movement. We would consider that positive punishment. That immobility, the animal can't walk around very much, so they can't get access to all the good things in their life. They can't get to the food. They can't get to the enrichment. They can't get to their buddies to do all the good social behavior. That's negative punishment. Those are all contingencies that are now the result of inflammation. So what do? Oh, sorry, I forgot this slide. So that also means that there's some covert hidden responses going on. There might be some physiological processes that we might label as maybe they're in pain, maybe they're showing they're tired, maybe they're hungry because they can't get to the good stuff. And maybe the emotions we would describe going on there are depressed, sad, maybe they're unmotivated, maybe they're irritable. Those are the labels for what we're observing. So we do an intervention. So our intervention is to fix the environment, to remove what created inflammation. So we do some hoof care, right? We train them to participate in hoof care so we can take care of what's going on there. Is my video playing? Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. And maybe we medicate them to take care of the inflammation. And then maybe we also make it easier for them to access their desired outcomes, their appetitives while they're healing. So maybe we put the food and the enrichment a little bit closer to so they don't have to work so hard to access it. All right, and so what are the outcomes of our intervention? We start seeing measurable responses. Maybe they lay down less, they walk more, they are not limping so much, and we start seeing that they actually can access all those appetitives really easily now, so positive reinforcement is reinstated, and the aversive conditions are eliminated. And guess what happens? Emotions change with measurable changes in emotional behavior and their related contingencies. So we address the contingencies. Okay, so now let's look at some real-life examples. So I've got a couple case studies for you. I've got a California black bear, and this animal was trained to voluntarily participate in medical care. It did these behaviors every day in the public display area for demonstrations. But in off-display areas, it had been coercive methods were used for a veterinary procedure, and because of that, anytime 2 or more people were in the back area, except for like a keeper that it knew, it showed this really unpleasant behavior that you'll see here in a minute. This resulted in this jaw-popping behavior. It would slap its paw on the ground, so we would consider this the emotional behavior. And it always did that if there were 2 or more people in the back area. So the result, whenever those behaviors were observed, is that people move away, right? So the animal got distance whenever it did that behavior. So I'm going to show you this video now. This is the one where the audio in the beginning is important. Hopefully not so loud it's going to scare you. It's going to make you want to leave the room. And you'll see the intervention that we did and the result, then the transformation in one session. So let's go ahead and play that. I don't know if you can hear her jaw popping. And there's 3 of us in the back there. That far away, she's upset. Just gonna do it again. So we move away even farther. And so I am a stranger to her because she's not going to do anything if a person she knows approaches. So I'm going to approach such a little tiny bit that she doesn't do anything but stay calm and then remove myself. And on each repetition, I'm going to come a little bit closer and hopefully she stays calm and relaxed, and then I'm going to remove myself. And eventually we get to a point that she's doing so well, you're going to see we bring in her keeper as well, so that 2 of us are approaching and retreating. So here, this is just getting started. Okay, so at this point, and you'll see she'll even turn her head, and so I'm like, ooh, I like that behavior. I like the head turn, so I'm going to remove myself on the head turn. So basically, I'm giving her what she wants for good behavior. Right? I'm giving her distance as the reinforcer. That's what's important to her. Removing something aversive, but starting under conditions which she can be successful. So now we're raising our criteria. We're adding the second person, and that's her keeper that she knows. So now we're saying, okay, can you handle the 2 of us? And now we're transitioning to positive reinforcement. These particular bears love avocados, so we're giving her some avocado. And if you can see her body language, I know it's hard because it's dark, but it'll start changing where she starts to sit up a little bit more and she kind of looks towards the keeper like, oh, you got avocado for me? And so and her ears kind of come forward and she's like, hey, where are you going with the avocado? And so she'll start looking more anticipatory with the keeper coming with the avocado, even though there's 2 of us in the back area, where before she couldn't even tolerate the 3 of us standing in the kitchen all the way in the back there, hearing us talking really quietly. So the really cool thing is by acknowledging that she wants distance as a reinforcer first, we were able to transform in just one training session what you might describe as angry or aggressive to anticipation, right? And again, it's by looking at these measurable responses. So let's kind of recap this. So before, our measurable behaviors are jaw popping, paw slapping, maintaining contingency is negative reinforcement, related emotions, maybe we call them aggression, anger, fear, whatever labels you want. And our intervention is to teach a new calm response works to get desired distance. And then we transition to positive reinforcement. Our new measurable behaviors are she's laying down, no, we don't see any jaw popping, no paw slapping. New related emotions, maybe she's anticipatory, interested, relaxed. New maintaining contingency, hopefully will be positive reinforcement. So now let's look at a second case study. We have a lowland gorilla. He's trained to station or sit in front of caregivers for positive reinforcement. There's 4 gorillas in this habitat. They'd all been closed in the inside holding in the past, but against their will, right? We've all been there, right? We've all had that situation where, oh my gosh, the gorillas got to be locked in. And this resulted in 4 gorillas all being afraid to be locked in the back. So anytime you bring them in the back and you try to shut that door, they're like, I'm out of here. And so they all present avoidance and escape behaviors when you try to close the door in the back holding. So many, 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 many months have been spent trying to shut them in the back area just by giving them food or, you know, feeding at the same time you try to shut the door, and no success there. So this is going to be a little challenging for some folks to understand, but I'm going to try to help explain it. So this person over here, she's going to definitely be giving the gorilla some food, but the thing that matters the most to the gorilla is this person by the door handle that's going to shut the door. What will happen is you'll first see her shut the door and the gorilla get really upset, okay? And then we're going to work on teaching the gorilla that if you stay calm, that door will open, okay? And really what matters most is the gorilla being calm and letting her open that door, move that door based on his calm behavior. The food part really isn't significant here, so try not to be too distracted by that. So let's watch this. So I think there's volume on this. There we go. And so the door is shut. He's not happy about it. He's banging around because the door was shut on him. He's not happy about it at all. Okay, so now we're going to start under new conditions. He's sitting there getting some goodies. She touches the door handle a little bit. He stays calm. She puts the door handle down. Door is completely open, right? So that was a good repetition. Okay, and he saw it all. So now she's going to try lifting the handle again. He went, that's too much for me. I'm out of here. So he leaves. He can leave. And she's just going to hold still. And when he comes back, she's going to step away from the door, give him exactly what he wants, leaving the door. So he came back through, so now she's going to move away. So that's what he wants. Distance you get away from that door, lady. That's what he wants. And so she gives him that. So he'll go back and sit down, and we'll try this again. Okay, and so now we sped it up so you don't have to watch the whole process. And so we're going to work through some approximations here. She takes a step close to the door, moves away. He stayed in position. That's awesome. So now she's going to work on, moving the handle a little bit. And again, this is all based on him allowing her to move these things and staying in position. The food part is really not important to it all. And so she pushed for a little too much, and he said, I didn't like that. But when he started to move back, she put the door handle down. And by doing all that, he starts to learn that he can cause her to keep that door open by staying in position, right? And like I have down here, desired responses cause the door to open. He makes the door open by staying over there. And so now what she's doing, she's actually closing the door, and he's staying in position. Not because of the food, but because he can make her open the door by staying in position. So that door is being closed and open and closed and open. And the one person sitting down is saying, I like that you're being really obvious about it. You're not being sneaky. All right, so measurable behaviors: leaving, banging, duration at station, maintaining contingency is negative reinforcement, related emotions, fear, anger. Teach calm responses, get people to move away from the door, to get the door to open, transition to positive reinforcement. New measurable behaviors: staying at station for longer duration, returns to station quicker, doesn't exit, no banging, no attempts to leave. Maybe the related emotions are relaxed, engaged, calm. New maintaining contingency will hopefully be positive reinforcement. So, to wrap this up, emotions are the labels we use to describe the contingencies. These are just our words, you know, that we like to use, whatever those words may be. Emotions are identified by observing measurable behaviors in context, basically under the conditions which they occur. Emotional behaviors and emotions are part of contingencies. And I know that's a big fancy word, but hopefully we kind of got it a little bit there. So if we want to improve animal welfare, our training interventions focus on addressing the contingencies that impact emotions. So again, emotions alert us to the contingencies. So if you see a fear response, you go, what's happening in the environment and what outcomes are they getting? So training becomes essential to address contingencies to transform and support the emotional welfare of the animals in our care. All right, so with that, I thank you. And if you have any questions, there's my contact information. And once again, you can get some more information from that QR code. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Barbara, and I think that's a great example of why we've brought these two working groups together, to show how animal welfare and the training working group can work so closely, and there's so much overlap between our work. So now I'd like to introduce the two vice chairs of the working groups. So Lisa Holmes from Chester Zoo, who is vice chair of the Animal Welfare Working Group, and Jim Mackey from ZSL, who is the vice chair of the Animal Training Working Group. And they're going to give you a great interactive session. Thank you.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. We've got the unenviable position to follow Barbara's talk. Wonderful talk. So we thought what we do actually is, for our talk, we turn it over to you guys and get you to help us to deliver this little session. So just really following on from what Barbara's just said, it is all about the context. When we're thinking about animal emotions, we're thinking about everything that is influencing the animals that are in our care. You have to consider the species ecology. So you're thinking about their natural behaviour, their natural environment that they would be in. Think about seasonality. How is the weather changing? How is that affecting them? Where's their breeding cycle, for example? So we have to look at the behaviour, the interaction with people, so whether that's visitors, us as caregivers. Think about the environment, think about their social grouping, and think about the other animals that are around them, whether it's in a neighbouring enclosure, like we've already mentioned, or within their own social group. And looking back at what Holly said earlier about the 5 domains model, we're thinking about those first 4 domains so that we can then interpret mental well-being. So we're thinking about their physical health, the nutritional state, and the environment. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a series of videos. So most of these have come from Chester and from ZSL, London, or Whipsnade. And we're going to get you to interact. So that Menti that you had open earlier, we're going to use the same code. We want you to tell us what you think the animal is feeling on the basis of these videos. So if we can just go to that next Menti slide. Okay. So we're not going to give you too much context here.
Joy, that's a good one.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to give you just a few seconds just to start loading this up.
So we got happy, we got excited, pride. Got a lot going on there, haven't we?
I can see dominance and confidence, territory.
Should we play the video again?
See if we can go back.
How many responses do you wait for? 85, okay. Excitement.
If you've seen anything else, you pop that in there.
Surprise, mixed, confident. I've just seen something there, Lisa. That's a really interesting one there, anticipation. Because actually what was happening here, and to place this into a little bit of context, if you play the video again, what you can see is this is a young gorilla. He's about 5 or 6 years old. His name's 𝗕𝗿𝗃𝗏, by the way. He's a lovely little boy. And what's happening here is some really interesting sort of play-related behaviours, but they precede directly a visitor feeding event, so where visitors get to throw some food over the top of the moat to feed these animals. And so we actually thought that might have been an anticipation emotion as well, connected to that behaviour, but also probably some play going on as well too. Now what's quite interesting is there's lots of different measurable behaviours there, so you've got the roly-poly, you've got the chest slap, and there's a couple of other things going on as well, which is approaching towards the window. And are we going to ask for the emotion of the next video as well, or are we going to wrap up this bit here?
No, we can wrap this one up.
Wrap this one up first, yeah.
So should I play this next one? Are we ready?
Yep, let's go. So what we're looking for here is just to show you something about the last bit of the behaviour that you saw with 𝗕𝗿𝗃𝗏, the young gorilla, who was then doing his roly-polies, and then he was walking up quite slowly up to the window and giving it a little tap. And then he was doing a few more roly-polies, he was doing his chest beating, and then the final bit is he actually does a tiny sort of backhanded slap towards the window, which is totally fine with a 5-year-old gorilla. But as you can see from the gorilla at 𝗕𝗿𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 there in Omaha, if there's different conditions and lots going on with that second video there, I bet that you'd all, if you were going to vote, you'd probably say aggression or anger or one of those emotions that we can connect to something extreme as running up to a window and banging the glass. But actually, there's probably a lot more going on there as well, because there's a conspecific in there, and there's also someone outside the window banging their chest to the gorilla. So who knows what's going on emotionally, but there's lots of measurable behaviours going on there too.
Yeah.
Okay, should we move on to the next one? So this is a tree kangaroo. So if you want to use your Mentimeter to vote, how is this little tree kangaroo feeling, everybody? Tired. Excellent. Sleepy, bored, that's a good one. There we go. Last day answer conference. Yeah, that's about right. Spent a week in the hotel bar. So yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? Look, you know, and there's tons and tons of different words there. Blue, painful maybe. Look at this. This is incredible, isn't it? Hungover. Come on. Not even at Chester Zoo would they do that to their tree kangaroo. Okay, so yeah, alert and relax, and there's so many contradictory things there, because you know, as to try and measure an emotion with a behaviour like that is essentially, you know, just a kangaroo chilling out, right? So how do we know exactly what's going on there? And I just think it gives you a really good idea of how visitors might interpret that behaviour, because that's in the public domain, of course. Just sitting still, chilling out. But yeah, tons and tons of different emotional responses that have been described in our brilliant word cloud here.
Okay, let's move on to something a little bit different now. So we're now going to show you one of my favourite species that I work with at Chester, and this is the Komodo dragon. So the dragon I want you to focus on is the one that's at the front of the screen. So let's see what other responses we get there. Let's play that video again. So you can see how these words were changing as the video was continuing. So you may not have seen the other dragon in the background. She's definitely tasting the air, so maybe she's looking for food, so that's why we're starting to see that. So what's actually happening in that video, that was the first time she was mixed with a new male. So this was a new experience for her, like she had been mixed with a male before, but she'd not met this particular male. And what you probably didn't notice in the background, because you're all looking at the dragon because they're amazing, is the team in the background just making sure that, you know, nothing's going to go too far. We're going to make sure that there's no overt aggression, which there wasn't. This was actually a successful mating for us. But from a visitor perspective, when you see that and you see an animal being chased through the enclosure, that's when we might start to see some of these words like fearful, because she's running away from the male. But actually, that's something we would expect to see during that mating process. Okay, I'm going to let you just keep writing up there because I can see that the word cloud's still building. The final one is something that you might not have really seen before. And so this is our southern cassowary. Again, it's another fantastic species that I work with at Chester. What I want you to focus on is the female who's at the top of the screen, the male's at the bottom. It's a really strange behaviour, isn't it? He's just like, what on earth is going on?
Yeah. Like my ex. Brilliant. Who wrote that? And that's like... And that's a really big word. Does that mean lots of people have said that?
Yeah.
Or is it just like...
I think we're going to have to play that again just so that people can enjoy
exactly.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, how do I follow that when you put a comment like that? So this behaviour is really quite special. So this is from back in 2016, and our wonderful team manager Zoe came into my office and said, Lisa, my cassowary's been really weird. I don't know what she's doing. And the team were actually stood in the house and they saw this for the first time. And they could see her throat inflating, and they thought, this seems to be a vocalization, but we can't hear anything. And why is she doing this weird trance-like behavior? We don't understand. It was before the male was mixed in. We've done lots and lots of work on this, and actually, we believe that this is, you know, a mating call. And so it's actually an infrasound. So we've actually recorded the sound of this. It's outside of human hearing range, but her posture, everything, the way that she's so dominant and she's pushing her feet through the floor. They'd never really seen this. So Zoe's actually writing this up as part of her master's project at the moment, so you'll get to hear a lot more about this behaviour and what it means. And we've got some wonderful connections with other cassowary holders as well, who's been helping us to look into this behaviour. But I thought this would be a really nice one for you to see, because it's quite an unusual one. I didn't quite expect that word cloud, though.
Yeah, I think there's some people out there that are kind of making some real points here, trying to be sexy. Hi, it's me. But yeah, great participation. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. So just to sum this up, really, you know, a snapshot of behaviour may not be enough. 5 seconds isn't going to tell you exactly what is going on in an animal's mind. And visitor perception can really be skewed by that as well. So we need context. We need to think about the environment. We need to know more about the species. You need to be looking at all these different behavioural interactions and their physical health. And actually, you may discover something new and interesting about your animal, like we did with the cassowary.
Yeah, I mean, I've really learnt tons about emotions today. It's not something in the training world we're that familiar with, so thanks to the Animal Welfare Group for inviting the Animal Training Group to collaborate with you. It's been absolutely fabulous. And do you know what, though? It's been a really, really long week, isn't it? And I'm so tired. I think I'm just ready to stop now. But I do know that there is, I think we're just gonna move on, aren't we?
We are.
We're just
It
done.
has been a long
Yeah.
week.
Okay. Well, let's just see how we get on here. Are you kind of finished now?
Yeah, I'm done now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Me too. Now then. Oh, hang on. Are we supposed to be? Yeah. No. We're just gonna.
Thank you
come
very
and
much
sit
to
down
everyone
here.
for participating in that section. Thank you.
Well, I've checked out. I'm now in the pub. I'm ready for a drink. I don't know about you guys. Long week and no more presentations, no more stuff from me. I'm done. That's better. Is there a way to get a drink round here? Waiter? Anyone?
Oh, hi, Jim.
Oh, no.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Annetta. How are you? I thought I'd escaped.
Yeah.
No?
Not yet.
More?
No, how do you like the conference? I mean, now it's almost over, so.
Yeah, no, it's been a good week, isn't it? You know, I've learnt a lot, learnt a lot from all you guys out there. The welfare group has been brilliant. But yeah, some of it's been a bit boring, like how many ring-tailed lemurs there are in Europe. Boring.
Okay. I didn't hear that one, but what do you think about Barbara's talk? I found it really interesting.
You know what? I love Barbara. I think the way she presents is brilliant. But as soon as I start hearing this negative reinforcement rubbish, I just switch off. Sorry, I'm not interested.
Yeah, but we can use it for so much. I mean, using negative reinforcement, we can work with animals that are. What do? You can use positive reinforcement if you have animals that are, for example, very aggressive.
What is that? Yeah, fair enough.
Or if you have animals that are very frightened.
Yeah, but we just do what we always did, right? We just stick to desensitization. You all know what desensitization is out there. You've heard that word. You know what it means. It's really simple. All you get is the thing that the animal doesn't like, and you get a bit closer, wait for it to be calm, get a bit closer and a bit closer, and in the end, they're not frightened of it anymore. It's really simple. Desensitization. It's all you need.
Yeah, but now we have the negative reinforcement. Now we can use negative reinforcement to teach an animal a behavior that it can use to make the scary things go away.
Yeah, but what's the difference? I don't really understand.
Well, the difference is, as you said, if you use desensitization, the animal can't really do anything. It can just sit there while you try to make the scary thing come closer and closer to the animal.
Well, okay, yeah, I sort of get that. But the problem I have with all this negative reinforcement thing, everyone, is that negative means bad, okay? We hear it from you animal welfare people all the time, negative welfare states. That means negative means bad, right?
It does, I mean, when you talk about it in daily life, but if we talk about it in behavior science, it simply means that we remove something.
Okay, right, I sort of get that, yeah? Remove something?
Yeah. For example, you remember the pandemic?
Yeah, I can remember the pandemic, yes.
Right?
Thank you very much. No in-person conferences back then.
What happened during the pandemic? You got a lot of tests and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
okay,
You had
yeah.
a COVID test.
About 400, maybe 500 tests, yeah, I remember, yeah.
And how would you like that outcome to be?
Or yeah,
Should it be
negative,
positive?
Right, negative, I get that,
Okay,
yeah, I understand,
okay,
yeah, okay.
But if it had been positive, would that have been good?
Yeah, okay, I understand that, yeah, so negative in that means, yeah, take away, right, okay, I get that. The thing is with negative is, positive reinforcement, that's the only way, isn't it? We've always been taught to do positive reinforcement training, so that's what we should stick to, right?
Yeah, but now we have the negative reinforcement, so we can use it when animals are afraid or if they're aggressive. So we can shape a behavior that the animal can use to get the scary thing to go away.
All right, okay, I sort of understand. I think I'm starting to get there. And giving me more examples.
Yeah, for example, I mean, if you add something to make a scary, if you add something to make a behavior happen that you can actually reinforce, then it's when you intentionally scare the animal to make a behavior happen that you can reinforce.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's the
coercive.
kind of negative reinforcement I'm thinking about, right? So you have to add something scary, so then the animal does the behavior you want, then you take it away. So like in the circus, that's right, isn't it? So I remember those guys in the circus, the scary tiger trainer, they have their whips and they present them and then the tiger does the thing they want them to do and then they take those whips away. Who knows how those whips became scary? I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? And that's negative reinforcement, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. But in our world, we sometimes have to bring in things that can be scary. Like when you, for example, train for blood draw, or if you train for gum swab or nail trimming.
Yeah, but that's when you use desensitization. Desensitization is all about getting them used to these scary things, you know? So I'm not sure how scary a cotton bud is, but, you know, that's what we use desensitization for. And same with things like electric files and even needles, you know, and syringes. That's what it's all for, desensitization. That's what we've always done.
Yeah, I know, but now we have the negative reinforcement.
Oh, okay, yep. You know what? I think I need some examples. I need to see some examples.
Yeah, okay, because if we have something scary in the environment and we need to start training, we can't just start using positive reinforcement because that would make the animal in a conflicting emotion.
Yeah, I get that because we've always called ourselves positive reinforcement trainers, right? So we always stick to positive reinforcement first. That's what we've always done. And yeah, that will carry on forever, won't it?
No, because that's the problem. Because if you start using food and the animal are afraid, it will be conflicted. It will go like, yeah, I really want the food, but I'm also scared of that thing, like we just saw in Barbara's video.
Yeah, well, I wasn't watching that, was I? I clearly switched off, so, you know, no offence, but that's the way it went. So, yeah, okay, well, look, you know what, there's tons of words. I really appreciate you trying to teach me this stuff, but can you show me something in real life that I might be able to understand?
Yeah, well, I think actually I have one video in my phone.
Okay, show me.
Okay.
There we go.
Let's see.
All right.
See if I can find it. Yeah. So, as you can see here, I have a video here. That's me working with the sea lions tons of years ago. And if you look at the video, you can see that he is pretty calm and relaxed, and he's not afraid of this target stick. See?
Yeah, I can see that.
It?
Yeah. Good training. Yeah, I can see that.
No problem at all. Yeah, and he gets his fish, right?
Mm-hmm.
But look what happens when I take the target pole towards the scale.
Right, so he's scared of the scale. That's what you're telling me, right?
You can see that. Can you see how he's hesitant? Yeah. Okay, he does it.
No, he's target training there. He's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. Let's see how he reacts now. So he got the fish.
What's he doing there?
Yeah, he's playing with the fish because now he knows. Now I'm going to ask even more of him. And he's afraid of the scale, so now he's in conflicted behavior.
Right, so what, that's stretching the neck out. You call that conflict, do you?
Yeah,
okay,
because he really wants to put his nose on the target, but at the same time he doesn't want to step up on the scale. So you can see there's two things happening here.
Okay, I get it. That is a conflicted sea lion. I understand that. But just to point something out here, Netta, that's you training that sea lion. Why didn't you do anything about it? That's a good question, isn't it?
Because, Jim, this is 20 years ago. I didn't know about this, but I learned this at this conference. It's amazing. We could use it for so many different things.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah, like, you know, like when we train a scale behavior or if, you know, also smaller things that we can use, like, you know, when we try to introduce a syringe, for example.
Whoa, what is that thing? You are not normal. Why have you brought that here on this stage? That is crazy. Look, can you see the size of that thing? I have to say, actually, this is a serious point.
It's just a syringe,
No,
Jim.
I have got a terrible phobia of needles. My palms have gone all sweaty just looking at that thing.
Jim,
I'm checking out. It's enough. I'm done.
You're embarrassing
I was finished at the beginning of this presentation.
Could you
now
come
I'm
back?
even more finished. You can just, you know, get lost. I'm not having it. This is ridiculous.
Serious?
I'm done. I am serious, yeah.
Serious?
I'm going to read about Bob Marley. Thank you very much. Oh, Jesus.
Okay. Well, we just saw this procedure with the negative reinforcement stuff worked on animals, so I wonder if it works on Jim. I think I have a wrong slide here. If somebody can help me to get the right slide. So I need the procedure slide. Where is it? It's gone. Oh, there it is. Good. So there it is. That was the procedure I was looking for. And I was wondering, does that work for Jim, maybe? Let's see. How was it? Start far enough away from the animals so they can show a calm, relaxed response. Well, he looks pretty calm to me from here. So now I can approach a little bit, and the animal, which is Jim in this case, is staying calm and relaxed. Then I move the scary object, which apparently was this little needle, and thereby I can negatively reinforcing that calm, relaxed response. Okay, let's see if it happens. Let's see. Okay. Oh.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Then what? Okay, next time, try to get the scary object a little closer. The animal stays calm and relaxed, and you remove the scary object. Okay, so let's see what happens.
This is so weird. What is going on here, honestly? Oh my God.
I got a little closer.
Such
Do you
a
want to see?
strange lady.
Let's see if we can do it again.
Could you just try to read? Thank you.
Well, he remained in the seat, and he still looks pretty calm, pretty calm. I'll just try one more to see how close I can get. That was actually pretty good. Yeah, I was almost all the way over at Jim's. So now you can switch to positive reinforcement for approaching the scary object. What do I have here that Jim would like? Water? No. I think I got it.
Did I just hear that? What? I just heard, oh. That's a very clear discriminative stimulus for me. Thank you very much. I know what that means.
Okay, let's see if I get a chance.
Just in case.
To use positive reinforcement.
Now this game is starting to get a lot better. So glad I checked out of that silly presentation I was doing before.
Let's see if I can start shaping behavior with positive reinforcement. Try again.
Look, this microphone's in the way, sorry. Oh, that's a good one, yeah. Yes, I like this game now. Brilliant.
Okay. Let's see if we can move him a little bit closer. Very good,
Here.
Jim.
Come
Very good. You can have the whole thing.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Wow. Cheers, everyone.
You want to bring him? Are you coming?
Yeah, why not?
Do you
I
want
think
to
I'm
hold
done.
it?
I'm trained. Part of me thought there maybe I'm being trained a bit like a sea lion. Anyone else? But you know what? That's a really interesting point. And what I think I'd really like to know is how we can start to use some of this stuff in our practical stuff in the zoo, because that's when we use it most, right? No? Yeah? So maybe you could show me a couple of examples of that now, yeah?
Yeah,
I'm going to put this down. Bit dangerous.
Well, actually, we did see a couple of videos this week, and I think I have some of them that we saw earlier.
Okay, well, let's play them.
So here's an example of an animal where it's a tiger, and it's we can see maybe the picture here that the tiger really doesn't like the guy that is standing up. But the guy that's sitting in front, he has no problem with him.
Yeah, we know Zacco from Copenhagen, very famous tiger trainer.
Yes,
oh, yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the other guy, the new guy, the tiger doesn't like him.
All right, let's
but
play
now
it.
we try to do the systematic desensitization, which we normally do.
So what you mean, like he gets closer and closer and just keeps feeding and feeding and feeding until, okay, yeah, I get that.
So you can see what happens. He's growling. He doesn't like him, but at some point he still wanted the food. Zacco's no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So is he looking at the other guy all the time? It looks like it's hard to tell from the the little picture there, but he's like he's keeping his eye perfectly on him, isn't he?
Yeah.
Ah,
yes.
I see.
Yeah, and now you can see that of course, you want the meat.
Oh dear!
What happened?
What did Holger do?
Nothing. He just fed him.
Oh, okay. So it didn't work.
Apparently not, because the tiger didn't like this guy, and because he was aggressive towards him, the food didn't work.
Okay.
So now they tried with negative reinforcement, like with you and the needle. So here, Holger is not offering any food because the animal doesn't want food. So he's simply just moving forward to the animal. When the animal shows a calm behavior, he moves back.
And what's the calm behavior? Just Zacco feeding him. So he just keeps feeding him, and that's good enough to keep him in position so the guy can come back and forth, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with the guy.
All right.
It's just for the tiger to feel comfortable and to be in this area. Otherwise, he would just get up and go away. We need him there, to work with him. So now you can see how he's just moving forward, and go forward again, and go back, calm behavior, go back. And you see?
Is that the same guy, but without the hat?
Without the hat.
Oh,
yeah.
I see. Okay. Wow.
Same guy.
Amazing.
But you see, now it's totally different. Now he wants to take the food because now the tiger is not aggressive towards this guy anymore.
Well, that is pretty impressive stuff, I have to say.
So what happened here is the emotional response changed.
Mm-hmm.
So now the animal can relax around this person because it learned that if it just relaxes, the scary thing will go away.
So we're using these procedures to change the emotional state of the animals by measuring behavior, so we can figure that out. Okay, I get that. And I think I'm probably convinced. So apologies, Barbara. I will definitely watch the recording of the presentation, all right? I might have just switched off at the wrong time. And there's a serious point here. We've just got up here and made absolute fools of ourselves just because we think it's a really important message, which is that in our bit of the science, negative doesn't mean bad, and that negative reinforcement is actually clearly a really effective tool for helping us as caregivers to change the emotional state of our animals in these procedures, especially when it's fear and aggression. Okay, so it's really important. And as animal trainers and just keepers that look after animals on a daily basis, we should be a bit better at communicating with our animals and listening to them so that they can use their behavior to get what they want, especially when what they want is us to go away, the object to go away, or for them to remove themselves. It's really important. But you know what? The most important thing that I've learned today is that all I have to do for the rest of my life to get scary stuff to go away is drink beer. Isn't that brilliant? Shall we go?
That's a
Back
good
to the
point.
bar. Okay, thanks very much, everyone.
Let's go.
Wow, how can you follow that? That was incredible, thank you. And I think it's not only hats off to you for such amazing acting. Obviously, Jim, you obviously do that part-time in London and no one knows about it. But also, hopefully that's given you a really great insight into how we can apply this. And again, it shows how the two working groups are working so well together. So fantastic. So Annetta and I just have a few more slides to give you some information about the resources and some upcoming workshops and conferences for you guys to interact with, hopefully. Okay, thank you. So the first thing to remind you guys of is that EAZA have an animal welfare webinar series on their YouTube channel, and it has a large number of webinars by lots of academics and specialists in the field, but also from the forum that we had last year. So please go and check it out. It's also got some great overviews of the 5 domains model and animal emotions and lots of other elements. So please have a look at that, and yeah, hopefully you'll engage with that for us. We also have an Introduction to Animal Welfare Assessments online e-course, which is available to all of you as EAZA members, so please register through the website. And it gives a really good basic theoretical understanding of animal welfare assessments, how to develop and conduct animal welfare assessments as well. And in case you want to jump straight to writing your welfare assessment for your collection, don't forget the Animal Welfare Assessments Library, where we have a range of different welfare assessments that have been validated from different member zoos, and some of them have been translated to up to about 14 different languages. So they're all available for you to have a look, download, and decide which sections of each you would like to apply if you want to write your own welfare assessment. We also have an EAZA Academy course running at Biopark Valencia in Spain at the end of October. It's a 4-day course run by some specialists in the Animal Welfare Working Group. And this is a great course to gain experience on how to develop a welfare assessment using scientific basis, what kind of technology and software you can use, and how to apply that in your collection as well. There are still some spaces available, so again, check out the website, or please click on the QR code for more information. And I'm mostly excited to announce, I think you guys have heard of this hopefully throughout the conference, is that we're running our second EAZA Animal Welfare Forum next year in March at in Parco Natura Viva, Italy. And the theme is, and I'm not doing this, Sally, I'm very sorry, knowing me, knowing you, understanding individual animal welfare. But I'm sure if you go to the gala dinner later and ABBA is playing, I promise I will interpret that in some kind of dance. Call for abstracts are now open and they finish at the end of the month. So if you are interested in running a workshop or giving a talk, please register on the website. And we have full and half bursaries that are open until the middle of November. So if it's something financial difficulty, then please have a look at that and apply. And we're really hoping to get a wide range of delegates, from keepers to vets to zoo directors and curators, but also lots of welfare specialists. So hopefully to see some of your faces there, it's going to be an incredibly exciting forum. So yeah, please go to the website or please contact Sally Binding for more information.
And I'm happy to say that another little arrangement that we made with the EAZA Academy and with the welfare group around the welfare forum is that we are going from the animal training working group and offer a pre-forum workshop like the one we did at this EAZA conference and the 2 previous ones. So here's some pictures from the workshop that we had here in Helsinki. Thank you so much to the people from Helsinki Zoo for making it an absolutely amazing event. You can see some pictures here. And the workshop consists of lectures in the morning. After lunch, we go out and we see some training demos. And after the training demos, we let the participants train some animals themselves. And as you can see here, there's a tortoise being trained with using a target to go to a station. And also we had goats being trained, like you can see here. We need some audio, please.
Can we turn up the...
Oh, almost. She's trying. I think she's trying to make it easier for herself. She's so big. Yay! Very good. It'll be less scary for her because she can leave. There you go.
So this is a goat learning to get a collar on.
Oh, look at you. Good job, guys.
So if you think that this would be interesting for you, we are going to offer it at the next, as a pre-forum workshop also. And finally, from the Animal Training Working Group, I just want to make sure you know that we have our new Animal Training Best Practice Guidelines. If you haven't downloaded them yet, I think you should scan this QR code and download the guidelines. It's a huge document. I think it's 56 pages. It has links to videos to explain everything we talk about in the document. And also in the end of the document, there's a template that you can use whenever you write your species best practice guidelines. There's a template you can take out and use as the training part of your guidelines, all made for you just to insert in the best practice guidelines. So everyone has scanned the code. So, well, I just want to hope that we are going to see you at the Welfare Forum, or do you want to say anything else, Holly?
I was just going to say thank you very much for coming, and thank you particularly for our speakers. Can we give a round of applause? And thank you very much. And to hopefully improve your welfare and emotional state, we are slightly early for lunch, so have a great rest of the conference. Thank you.
I'm nervous about that.